Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 14th 2026 commission meeting. If we can stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Bobby, if you can call a roll, please.
Commissioner Nathan Liker,
Here.
Chair Neil Younger,
Present.
we have a quorum.
Okay, order of business will stay the same unless,
I have no
Okay.
changes.
minutes from the April 7th meeting.
Does look fine.
How about the consent agenda?
I'll move we approve items A through G on the consent agenda.
And I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Anyone from the audience like to speak? That is not on the agenda? Okay. The monthly financial report.
Everything seems to be in order there.
Okay. All right, moving along, the Ellis County Conservation District update. Linda?
Good morning. I would like to say
Morning.
thank you for letting us come and present to you this morning. I am Linda O'Neill. I am the district manager for the Ellis County Conservation District. This morning I have with me Vice Chair Alan Roth. I have Supervisor Travis Groff, and I have our acting SDC Dustin Criley. Some major events that have happened over the last year. We've had 2 new people in our office. Dustin Criley joined us from Brooks County. He is acting as the supervisory district conservationist for our 3 counties. That would be Trigo, Russell, and Hayes. And his headquarters is in Hayes right now. Lane Faunensteel joined us towards the end of the year. He is a natural resource specialist, and we welcome both of them to the office. I'm very glad to have them. Back in November, we some of us attended the Kansas Association for Conservation Districts. We attended their annual meeting in Wichita, and that brings all of Kansas, the conservation districts, and some NRCS personnel together. We hosted a farmer-to-farmer event on March 31st at Thursdays. We had 24 people attend, and it ended up being a discussion mostly about brush management in our county and what NRCS, what their guidelines are, and kind of what we had people from the audience asking a lot of good questions about that. And that really seems to be a concern in our county, especially with the the red cedar trees that are starting to encroach in our county. I helped host a local work group meeting. That was April 2nd. We bring people in the community together that would give their feedback of what they see working in our programs, what is not working in our programs, and that information is taken back to the state level for NRCS, and then I believe it's also taken to the national level as kind of, this is what's going on in our county, and this is what producers want in our county. I co-hosted the Soil Health Field Day in March with Trigo and Russell County. We actually had a demonstration of brush removal, and NRCS and a couple of other people gave talks especially about soil health and, of course, the brush management, which is important. We had our annual meeting in January, on January 22nd, out at the Rose Garden. We had approximately 250 people attend, and it was our 80th anniversary. Alan attended Conservation Day at the Capitol in February, and Alan and I went to the National Association for Conservation Districts, their annual meeting in San Antonio in February. Some of the plans that we have for our organization, we hope to have another farmer-to-farmer event in August, which you will be invited to. We are looking to hire a summer intern, and that can be either a high school student or a college student to work from when school is out in May until when school starts in August. And there is a potential eventually to turn into a full-time position. And that depends on circumstances in our office and the intern themselves. That's how we got Mackenzie Kane, when she was an intern for the summer, and then she came on full-time after her internship was done and she graduated from college. Next school year, we would like to present conservation lessons to fourth graders in Ellis County. As long as I have been there, there has been no interaction between our organization and the schools, and we would like to change that. We would also like to host a poster contest for those fourth graders in Ellis County. And the reason we chose fourth graders is because those are the ones that attend one of the ag days here in Ellis County for all the fourth graders. So that's why we're targeting that age group. Some of the statistics in our county, from the state of Kansas, we received for state water resource cost share, we were given $25,633. I asked for another $1,516. We had a total of $27,150 that were brought into our county and given to producers for their conservation efforts. The state, we also have the non-point source pollution fund. We were allotted $10,055, and we had an extra, I asked for another $5,192, and that totaled $15,247 brought into Ellis County. We did ask for extra state funds, a total of $20,000. 10,000 of that will be for a grazing lands initiative, and another 10,000 will be for county priority. That means that we will decide what we see as a priority in our county. And right now, terrace rebuilds, waterways, those have been our priority in Ellis County. The county funds, which you were so generous with, paid for 2.5 miles of terrace rebuilds this last year. District funds that we put in paid for 3.5 miles for terrace rebuilds. And we have also paid for 2 windbreaks. We're going to pay for a range planting and a brush management project. In my office, as of right now, I have 15 applications for 2027 money. So we are keeping busy and just keeping it what we can do to keep the soil on the land. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Dustin, and he's going to speak to you.
Good morning. Again,
Morning.
Dustin Criley, Supervisory District Conservationist for NRCS, also acting as the District Conservationist for Ellis County. I just want to state our support for the Ellis County Conservation District. By law, NRCS cannot exist in a county without a cooperative agreement with a conservation district. So without the county conservation district, NRCS would not have a presence in Ellis County. Along with our technical assistance that we help give support to the conservation district, we also bring in federal financial assistance dollars into the county. A few numbers here for our conservation stewardship program. Those are 5-year contracts. In the fiscal year 2025 alone, we obligated $889,212 of contracts for our conservation stewardship program. And then for our EQIP program, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, in 2025, we obligated $534,671. Both those programs combined will bring in roughly $1.423 million into the Ellis County through conservation practices and getting conservation on the ground. So again, just on behalf of NRCS, I want to thank the Ellis County Conservation District for their support and the county support for the Conservation District.
Okay, if anybody has any questions for me, I can answer them now.
I have none right now. I appreciate the update, and it looks like you're making good use of the funds that you receive. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. It's good that you're gonna get in with the kiddos and
Yes, we're
get them
looking forward to
involved,
it.
and because old farmers are leaving and we need some replacement.
We do.
So
All right, well, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Stonewood North Community Improvement District Resolution 2026. Dominic?
So Darren Myers, County Administrator Dominic,
Okay.
said that we can handle this here locally today, as it's a simple process for the next step of the Community Improvement District up northwest east of Hayes. Essentially, what Resolution 2026-08 states is to set a public hearing, which is notated in the resolution for May 12th at your regular commission meeting at 8:30 a.m. It's that second commission meeting in May. Basically, what that does is it sets the next step of the process, which is also outlined in the commission agenda packet. Is you adopt a resolution today, the county clerk will publish the notice of the hearing 2 times, 2 consecutive weeks over the next couple of weeks, and come May, we'll have the public hearing. At that point, if the commissioners want to proceed after that, there's more steps to go, but this is kind of stretching up to the end. And as well, if there is any question too, I know Jennifer, she's out in the audience, but the certified letters that have to be mailed out to all the property owners would also be taken care of through the HOA with Gilmore and Bell. They're taking care of all of that. So that way we ensure that the people, the landowners within the CID are notified by certified letter of the hearing, is also their ability, if they so wish, to file a protest petition in regards to that process. The other piece to this is in your agenda packet is the actual CID petition that was approved at a previous commission meeting. The landowners have met and they have signed, those that have wished to sign it, and they've met the requirements, which also what this resolution states is that they've met the minimum requirement of 66% of the landowners have signed it. There's more than that actually did assign it. And then 75% of the land is developed. So that's all listed within the resolution. But there's also a couple of other key items that are identified in there is the hearing date, the estimated cost of $256,276 to do these improvements. The first improvement is planned to be done in 2027 for the double seal coat of the road, followed by 5 years after that in approximately 2032 to do a 1-inch asphalt lift on it. It also sets the financing terms, the CID boundaries as well. So with that, that's the gist of the resolution at this point, to if the commission wants to consider it to approve, and I can answer any other questions if you have any.
I have no further questions. I mean, we've been working through this process, and I think it's just another chip or stage to go through. So I have no questions.
I guess. Do you have anything that you'd like to, okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Well, with that, I'll move to approve Stonewood North Edition CID petition public hearing notice resolution 2026-08.
Okay, we have a motion,
Will you
a second?
it?
I'm sorry, I'm seconding it, yeah, yeah, I'm excited too, so about this, this is gonna be nice. But yeah, I will second that. So,
Okay.
we have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, part-time dispatch positions. Mr. Jeff?
Good morning, gentlemen. Jeff Ridgway, Director of Emergency Communications for Ellis County. This morning, I'm asking that we would have the authorization to employ up to 2 part-time positions. Basically, currently right now, we have fully staffed, we would have 14 full-time equivalents, including myself. I'll use our night shift as an example. Currently, we have 2 in training and I have 1 opening. So on my night shift, we have a total of 4 employees covering 2 employees a night. We run a 2-employee minimum to staff our center. And so because we have those in training, those 4 employees each are picking up right now an additional 5 hours overtime per pay period. The concept of what I'm asking here with the part-time employees is we know of at least 1, potentially 2 former employees that are already familiar with our equipment that we'd be able to bring in on a part-time basis and pay them straight pay at the standard pay, as opposed to have to staff those overtime hours. Our calculations is that we would not incur any additional costs above what's already budgeted. Basically, again, the theory is that we would pay straight in those areas that we would have been paying overtime. So we would see the cost savings there. We would not have any health insurance expenses and those benefits because they would be in that part-time position. But that's kind of what the request is and what the goal is just try to cut down on that overtime usage, leverage those teams when we have vacation coverage where we normally would bring in someone for overtime, or sick leave coverage, or those unexpected and or in this scenario where I've just down staff because of training, we could use them to try and save on that overtime.
Okay. And right now in our communications department, we don't have any position listed as a part-time position.
That's correct.
Okay. I see no
don't either.
problem with this.
One thing, translators, is there anybody there that can do that?
No, at this moment, we don't have anyone on staff that is that's able to translate. We utilize a service called the Language Line that our dispatchers are able to call up and assist us with translation. We do also have a system or a transcription software that actually transcribes the call as they're on the call. So there's some visual transcription that sometimes is able to assist and help at least perhaps give us the what, the where, and maybe the why. At least we can start getting people going while we're trying to get the translators on the line to help us.
Will these two part-time positions, will they have any special limitations on what they can and can't do, being they're not a full-time employee?
In my opinion, no. They'll have the same. The one that we've actually had conversations about bringing on was just recently left us to go to another job opportunity, and they've got the experience. They're familiar with our software. They're already basically trained and very capable. And so from that aspect, I have no concerns about them not being able to perform some aspect of the job.
Okay. Will these part-times also be required to complete extra training throughout the year to maintain their serviceability, more or less?
Correct. Yes, but for what requirements we have as far as certifications, there's nothing that, in my belief, would result us to exceed allotted currently budget needs. So there would be things like CPR, which would be every 2 years. Other trainings we have they could actually do while they're covering on duty. So we wouldn't have CPR would be about the only one that I can think of that we'd have to bring them in on a specific training program. Everything else we can do while they were covering, whether even it's online stuff that can be done. And I don't foresee that being a challenge.
Okay. Well, we need to run this through HR to actually create a part-time position as well and update our handbook.
When I create the 2026 or 2027 budget, I'll reauthorize, or I'll have the staffing for authorized numbers updated. And if you do approve that, it'll just have a part-time position. But the job description, none of that would change. The pay grade will not change. They would still start out because they meet the same requirements. They just wouldn't be benefit eligible.
Okay. Okay. I have no further questions.
That's it's a good deal. It gives everybody, what you got, 14, I think is what Darren said?
14 full staffed,
Yeah.
yeah, including myself and Austin, our assistant. But so there's typically 12, 3 on each shift is the typical schedule. They run a 79-hour biweekly schedule. And so right now, like as I mentioned, our night shift crew where I'm shorthanded, they're working. Those 4 employees are doing 84 hours, so they're picking up 5 hours extra overtime a pay period at the moment. So again, this would help hopefully give them some time off and also save us a couple dollars.
Okay. Well, we'll move to authorize communications department to staff up to 2 part-time dispatchers.
I'll second that. Yeah. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, county engineer report, Mr. Mike.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mike Freeman, Project Manager with Public Works. As we do every year, we are submitting the county engineer report / supervisory annual report. Just in general, obviously our people go back and roll up the projects that we did and look through all the timesheets and that type of stuff to come up with these numbers, just kind of to create an overall, this is what we did in different categories, that type of stuff. We do submit it to KDOT, Kansas Department of Transportation, and what they use it for is they have what they now developed, it's called a clip tool. And it's an online resource that every county has access to allow us to compare, contrast, look at, okay, what's everybody else doing? How are they doing it? What's their budgets look like? That type of deal. And it's one more tool in your tool belt to hopefully help make better decisions and compare and contrast. Are we doing a good job? Is there areas of opportunity? On top of that, it does have a built-in ability to kind of project a little bit on, what potential costs and that type of deal would be down the road. And obviously it's a projection, so you can't rely on it exclusively, but it is a good tool to be able to kind of compare and contrast and see, if you can find some stuff that's similar to, as far as budgets and everything else. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions on that, but.
Looking through here. Nothing really is popping out. Is there anything? There is one area here where it says bridge replace, which we had, forgive me, I don't know that I can't remember the nomenclature on the bridges. Over on 370th, that bridge that was just completed. And on this worksheet, it doesn't have a bridge replacement listed. Is there a reason for that?
I'm not 100% certain on that. Brendan would be more informed of that. Just as an assumption, I'm assuming based on the timing of when it was completed,
Okay.
would be part of the reason it's not on this specific report, because there is a cutoff date on how we report things. I don't know that for certain, but I can definitely check in on that and get back to you guys.
Okay. And do these reports get run multiple times a year? Or is this just an annual?
This is it's an annual.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, with that being said, it would be nice to have 2024 on here just to compare and see, just for the public and
Okay.
us,
Okay.
and maybe that's why that bridge is not on there.
No,
Was
that
it
could be.
because it started in 24?
That is very possible. Like
Okay.
I said, I'm not certain, and I would definitely look into that and then
Okay.
get back to you on that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, it looks good. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, Commission 2027 Budget Direction, Mr. Darren.
Morning, Commissioners. As the commission knows, a couple weeks ago, you approved the budget calendar, start the process to start reviewing the needs and the numbers for 2027 and how they'll impact the overall budget. And last week at the County Commissioner Retreat, we also discussed several different items as well in regards to how different factors are influenced our budget into the future. So a couple things just to mention here is what we would like is we went over all the numbers. Everything was below budget. The transfers to reserves from the different capital improvement funds and everything that we had. But I have some bullet points here in regards to kind of digging in a little bit deeper that we'd like to maybe discuss a little bit, and any information that the commission can provide, so that way I can pass it along to the department heads. We have our next meeting on Thursday, and be able to share that information with the department heads and get them their first draft budget worksheet so they can start putting their numbers together, with the goal of I believe, I'd have to look back on the calendar, but I believe it's May 16th, they'd be due back to me. So that way I can combine everything together and have a first draft to the commission by June 2nd commission meeting. I did also reach out to the auditors, Adam Brown. They're in the process of completing our audit. And last year in mid to late May, they did their completion of the audit presentation to the commission. And hopefully with that point, that gets us, if we can continue it on May or sooner, we can have a better development of our budget than in the years past by knowing what those unencumbered balances are for the different funds. That was a great help for them moving us up into their schedule. And with some future legislation that has been passed and vetoed and overridden, budget timelines could significantly shift and change as we go through it. Unfortunately, if anything does get passed this year, it's really going to create issues for us and, well, a lot of people on how things will work in regards to timelines and planning, since we're already into our budget session and already approved that budget calendar. But part of the discussion is just the overall budget, I guess. In general, my question to the commission is, do you have any sense? I know we've had individual conversations that I've discussed with you about the budget, but do you have any individual comments or thoughts on just on the budget overall that you would like to be passed on to the other elected officials and department heads on starting to prepare their budgets?
No, I guess I'll start. Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts. We've, over the past 3 to 4 years, this commission has, I think, worked really hard to set up a number of goals and programs and directives, and we funded those properly. And last year we raised the mill levy, a full mill, to account for changes on federal policy, federal grants that may not show up. So, starting with the mill levy, I do not want to see a raise from my standpoint there. We added 1 full mill last year. So if we can maintain that or even reduce that portion this year would be my goal. The other thing is I would like to try to the best of our ability to keep all the policies and all the plans that we put in place over the past 3 years, our asphalt plan, our takeover or our absorption of the communications department. There's a number of things that we've set in place that I'd like to see maintained to the best of our ability. So, and we also have some building renovations that we're going through. I know there's going to be things there, but I think we've done a very good job of accounting for that and with our bond sales and doing that. So if we can try and stay within those parameters, that's where I'm looking.
Yeah, like I say, we worked hard on the policy, so a lot of good a policy does if we don't follow it. I also do not want to raise the mill levy. Everybody always say, keep it flat. I want to keep it level, and you know, everybody's getting taxed to no end. So I really don't want to change anything. If we can.
And Commissioner, if you don't mind,
No.
I'd also like to add in there. We have bantered around the idea of a transient guest tax to help offset some of these other programs. I would like to see us continue forward on that path and getting that accomplished.
We discussed that a little bit last week at the commission retreat as well, and Mr. Jeter gave an update on that process. A 2%, we can by statute go up to 2% by completing the easiest process, and I believe that was the intent of the commission last week. Is that's still the intent? Is the Bill Jeter and I can start working together on the documents to do a 2%
I think
guest tax
that's
at the hotels?
yes. I think that's the direction we need to go. I mean, we've looked at cuts. We've looked at all sorts of different ways we can cut and trim and maintain our budget, but this is a part of the encumbrances or the ways to affect the income for us, and I think we need to adjust that.
And again, we aren't telling our head departments anything. They do an excellent job every year to cut where they can and as much as they can.
So just to kind of recap that, when I give the budget documents off to the department heads, we'll have individual departments. You have salaries, contractual, capital, commodities, etc. would it be fair statement to say that when I give those documents to the department heads, that it is keep your commodities contractual capital flat, if not reduced, and then adjust the personnel policy or per policy, the salaries, because people come and go, change plans and everything, adjust those, but make sure that, I guess, make to the point that all of your other expenses within each individual department budget is at or below this year's level.
Mhm.
Yes.
And that reduced is the big word, so if they can do the reduced, but, the way the world is right now, that's gonna be a
With,
challenge.
it's going to be a challenge and within means. I mean, if we have different elections come up
Mhm.
that the clerk needs, different asset that's coming in this coming year. So, there's just, we understand that there's going to be things that need to be adjusted, but to the best of our ability, try and maintain where we're at.
It's gonna be tough for road and bridge and all the other departments, especially they use the most fuel and equipment. That's gonna be a big challenge for
Mhm.
Brandon, so.
In regards to the revenue neutral rate, that's a discussion that we could have today, but as we usually in the years past, wait until about mid-cycle of the budget process before we make any determination on that. Each year, we usually make, the staff recommends to the commission that we file the paperwork to notify the clerk that it would be not the intent, but to have the option to exceed the revenue neutral rate. As I stated in a previous meeting, that doesn't mean that we would. It just gives us the option if an emergency comes up that we know we have to fund something in the next year that we identify through the budget process, that we have the ability to exceed that rate if we need to, but it doesn't actually mean that we will, and we won't actually determine that until usually in mid to late July when we start getting to the point where we have all-day commission meetings and go over all the individual budgets.
Yeah.
So I'll bring that back at a future date as well. In regards to outside agencies, I know I've had some individual conversations with the commission. Those always seem to creep up each year in the amount of funding. And I know that a couple comments that have been made is in regards to the county budget on ways to be able to reduce it is to reduce that amount of overall funding to all the different outside agencies that the commission does approve, and that's just over 1.3 million that's approved this year. So what is the direction that you would like me to notify them in regards to their funding levels? Stay the same, or do we, I know the hard question that was asked to me is, do we ask them to cut for next year to help with the overall budget process as well?
And that's a hard discussion because two of the biggest asks are very underfunded systems within our state. One of the biggest ones is DSNWK, and the other one is High Plains Mental Health. And, we've made a new commitment to, they've got different resources going on and such, and trying to cut there when they're trying to get off the ground and get going. I don't know. And because everybody in the community knows that mental health is a major issue. It's a major concern, and it's a major concern for our jails. So those areas are going to be a really difficult conversation on how to handle going forward.
And those are two of the services, like say, that we provide in Ellis County. So those are gonna be tough. They're gonna be tough to do, and yeah, it's gonna be a big challenge again.
I guess from my standpoint, at this time, I don't have any direction on those two organizations as a whole. I know we had a lot of discussion a year ago concerning DSNWK and access and whether or not that's a system to continue with. And I think the conversation just got dropped. I don't know where we ended up with it.
They're still working through some funding sources. I don't think anything's changed at the federal level to increase their level of funding that they get. which also impacts the amount of funding that we give them because there's some cost matches there. I know the city manager had a brief conversation with him here recently, and I didn't really have a good update from DSNWK themselves on what their plan is or what their ask is again for this year. I know that has been a concern, and I know one of the commissioners did ask, and I need to confirm with Finance Council is if that money that we do give DSNWK for the access transportation, if that can be in any way tied to the transient guest tax, to take that off of there as well and transfer it onto that. There might be enough room in there for that, but still have to check, and I need to get response back on that before
Okay.
I could say if that's something that you could remove off the property tax dollar side.
Okay. Yeah, and then moving forward, I guess it would be my goal later on if we can adjust our sales tax in the future, maintain the sales tax that we have and adjust it some way to fund such as a High Plains mental health. I mean, it's for healthcare and stuff like that, and that would be a goal in the future of mine, going forward.
Yeah, that can be added in there as well, as we've had many discussions on the sales tax that it expires in October 2030. So the more we continue to discuss it and how the commission wants to proceed, come about 2029 when we start having town hall meetings and however that may look at, probably throughout the process of 2028 and 2029, we tweak that into exactly what the plan wants to be, because at that point we could have all new commission, so we can't necessarily say exactly what that may look like into the future, but the more we can discuss it and put the information out there, it does account for 6 mills of property taxes that we don't have to collect because of the sales tax, which a large majority of that comes from residents outside the city of Hayes. So it is direct property tax relief by having the sales tax. So for the outside agency funding, in my notifications, keep it flat.
I would say keep
Yeah.
it flat.
Or reduce if they are willing.
If they
Yeah.
can, if they can reduce, but I know like the DSNWK has been flat since for 4 or 5 years. It's been flat. So the one that continues to rise is High Plains Mental Health, but their services continue to rise, and what they have to do continues to rise.
And I know they're still working on opening up the CIC, the Crisis Intervention Center, and that was an additional $100,000 in funding request for this year. And I know they're still working on their federal and state funding to get that process going as well.
So,
Uh,
and hopefully we see the results in our jail, and then we can reduce our sheriff's budget.
That's what I was just gonna say. How does
Sorry,
that-
Sheriff, I had to throw you under.
How does that 100,000 impact the sheriff's department?
Yeah.
That's the hard conversation
Yep.
on all that between mental health, sexual abuse, child abuse, all those different kinds of things that a lot of those outside agencies get the funding from. Is you might be able to reduce them by a couple $1,000s, but what's the back end impact? And we can't necessarily say what the jail population is going to be and how many more inmates are going to be in the jail or have to be transported and housed in another jail somewhere else. And then the transportation fees of getting them to and from court and to and from jail. You might save a couple $1,000 here, it cost you 10 or 20,000 somewhere else. So that you can't directly tie that right away to those cuts.
Right.
Since we're on the topic of the sheriff's office and staffing levels, the proposed budget that I have put together that I'll get sent to the department heads doesn't have any change in staffing numbers. But as you know, the sheriff's office is requesting and has some ideas on adding some detention staff because of those higher numbers and the safety of his personnel. And he has some funding options, but the initial budget does not include those positions. But as we move through the budget process, he's got a document put together and planned, and when we have the individual budget meetings with the sheriff when he comes in, he'll be able to explain that process and how that may look, and then you'll also have a better look at what the overall budget looks for 2027 as well. So the initial presentation of the budget doesn't have any staffing changes in regards to the number of personnel in it.
Okay.
we talked a little bit about that at the retreat, that maybe Hayes PD would also come over and, I don't know what that's gonna look like, but, maybe that's a possibility too, to help. So,
And that's one of the main concerns with Hayes PD moving out of the facility. That takes out dozens of officers that could be in the facility at any given time when there's a fight or anything that happens in the jail. They can run up the stairs and assist, but once they move out at the end of the building, that takes away that additional resource of the immediate need to have that safety in the jail. So that's why this has kind of got brought up as well.
Got it. Okay.
Transfers to reserves, Commissioner Likers kind of funded or talked about this already, your intent would be to try to keep those transfers, the reserves transfers the same, so that way it doesn't impact any future road and bridge equipment type proposals or projects that we have coming up. Would that be fair to
yes,
move
That's-
along with?
yes.
That's fair.
And then I had a note on here, the transient guest tax with Commissioner Liker already noted and talked about, and we'll get working on that in the coming months. And then, I guess, getting into the weeds a little bit, the last question is there any certain focus within the budget that you would like to see any specific change to besides any of the generalities that we talked about?
I have none.
I really don't either. I mean, like I said earlier, we've done so much, and we've increased staffing out at Public Works. We've increased some of the other places. I guess the only couple places of concern was EMS had brought up several positions at times. Just kind of shift changing. I believe the sheriff's office has kicked it around at a time or two. I don't know if it's just the jail or entire deputy department. I don't know, but I know that those are kind of outliers. So if we need to start making preparations for future to address our changing workforce, we probably should start sooner rather than later.
2026 was funded due to increased revenue for the EMS department on the health insurance bills and insurance funds that they receive. Their staffing was increased. The commission approved their staffing changes as of January this year. So they've already made their operational changes where they pulled their supervisors off and put them on the Tahoe or their command vehicle to be able to respond. So their staffing has changed. And if you would like, I know Danita's not here today, but maybe at a future meeting, she can, since we're 4 months into the year, she might be able to give you an update on how that's going if you like as a
Okay.
report. And then part of that's been in the back, like you discussed, it's been in the works for several years. The sheriff's office has somewhat conceded over the last several years as allowing Danita and EMS to prioritize her staffing to get that done first, with the understanding that his request would be coming into the future. And now's the future, I guess, for that conversation, and it's getting brought up for discussion. So it'll be before you several times as we talk throughout the budget process and how you would like to implement that as well. I know he's out there. I don't know if he probably not prepared. I believe he's been on vacation for a couple of weeks, so he's still getting back into the swing of things. But that will get discussed in the future as well.
Okay, so I guess that's kind of a focus. We'll need to kind of look at that and get some preliminary ideas and numbers on what they're looking at, so we can maybe make some adjustments.
Yep, he's kind of looking at a phased approach. He has revenues that he can offset a position and maybe just phase it in over a couple of years and not have a one hit all at once. So that information will be at a future meeting.
And it's my apologies because I was not at the retreat last week, but our health department has potential of some short-term expansion.
Correct. She has been notified of a grant, and she has processed that. Not necessarily that we've accepted it, but it's about $1 million per year grant to kind of change the landscape of how community health works. And she submitted that as the Ellis County could be one of 2 test pilots in the state to change how that community health works. And in May, I believe at the May 5th meeting, she has a commission agenda item reserved already to give an update on that project. I would like to tell you the name of the grant, but it's I think it's actually like 10 words long, and there's no way I can remember.
Right.
It's a state grant through the health department, so. But there'll be a future update on that on that grant and possibly adding some positions there, but not on the property tax side. It would be funded through the grant
It'd be
and all
funded through the
managed through
grant.
Wichita State University.
But it's also focusing on readdressing on how to change our health systems within a county to make it more sustainable.
More proactive.
Yeah.
Trying to be more proactive about your health instead of being reactive and waiting to find something out before you go to the hospital, get treated or have a fall. And have focus also on women health as well for like the WIC program and different things that they have there as well.
So there may need to be some adjustments coming forward, to adjust so we can, I know we have a grant coming in now, but to try and sustain it future wise, if we can encompass or pull things together to do that. So, but that's just some other areas of focus, I guess, that need to be mentioned.
I guess in the other important one, and there's two of them sitting out there, the IT part, so our security stays good so nobody can get in our system. Right now, it is crazy that all the different scams that are going around, it's just, yeah. So we have to look at that pretty hard, and that's not cheap. It's
No.
really associated with a big cost.
We have a lot of protected information in the county that needs to be from addresses to medical information, criminal records. I mean, you name it, property information.
Okay.
I think that should be enough for us to have a good discussion on Thursday and start the budget process. I appreciate the input.
Clear as mud.
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay. County Administrator report, Darren? None?
I have no report this week.
Okay. I guess just attended the retreat, which there was a lot of good conversation going on there. And then I also attended the Shenshin meeting last night, and I'm gonna try to get one of them to come here and talk, and I think it's with Mr. Jeter too, so maybe we can get two birds with one stone there, so that's all I have. And no executive sessions?
Nope.
Okay. Meeting will adjourn at 9:17.